guys, hey, I'm Jamie from Game Underground, and we're here at Arisia 2013 in Boston, and I'm here with Lew Wolkoff from PhilCon. And they're a big sci-fi convention that's happening in Philly, and Lew and I started talking a little bit, and he has some interesting information. You know, a lot of our guys that come to Game Underground go to a lot of conventions and things like that, and he actually wrote a paper on one of the first sci-fi conventions ever.
The first ever hold, although there's people in Britain who dispute the fact. But the first thing to ever call itself a science fiction convention was when 6 guys from New York, including Don Wollheim, who went on to be a writer and the publisher of Daw Books, and Fred Pohl, the science fiction writer, were 2 of them.
Yeah.
They took the train down to Philadelphia in October 1936. They hooked up. They warned the Philly fans in advance. They hooked up with them.
Yeah.
They took a walking tour of the city. They had their pictures taken in front of Independence Hall. And you see it in histories of science fiction fandom. You'll see a picture of about 8 guys standing in front of a door at Independence Hall.
Yeah.
And it's his first science fiction convention. The 9th guy was photographing it. There were a couple of other guys who couldn't be at the group at the time. One of them had a job that he worked during the morning, so he couldn't be there until later. They went to a guy's house, Milt Rothman's house. They organized as a formal meeting. They elected Milt as the chairman and Fred Pohl as the secretary. He took minutes, but he has no idea where they are. I asked him. That summer, both the Democratic and Republican national conventions had been held in Philadelphia. So the idea of Philadelphia Convention was floating in the air. So they said, we're the Philadelphia Science Fiction Convention.
Nice.
And, well, some of them went over to another guy's house, John Baltadonis. He had a printing press, and he showed them his printing press. He showed them his art. He was an artist. Some of them stayed, looked at Milton's collection. Some of them played craps. They, sat and schmoozed about science fiction in general. And in the evening, they all walked back down to the train station singing science fiction folk songs, which are science fiction words set to well-known melodies. It's a tradition that still goes on.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. We know a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, there was one, Onward, Fufu's Soldiers to Onward Christian Soldiers. Fufu was one of the many pretend science fiction fan religions that have been created through the years. I think it was the first one.
Wow. Okay.
The New Yorkers took the train back to New York City. They gathered at they went to an ice cream parlor that they frequented and had their special, they were called the Futurians, their special Futurian Sundays. And then they went home, and a man named John D. Michel sent out the word to science fiction fans around the world that the convention had been held. He wrote a 1.5-page long discussion of what they did at it. It was the first convention report ever written.
That's so cool.
I did a paper on this first convention. Philadelphia was bidding for the right to run the 1986 World Science Fiction Convention, and to publicize it, I did a paper where I interviewed all these people. And Sam Moskowitz, who wasn't at the convention, who was a famous historian of science fiction, I called him up and asked him if he had any materials, and he sent me Xeroxes of John Michel's blurbs, including the 1.5-page thing that John wrote out.
Yeah.
And so I put it all together into this book, which I'm now selling, do a self-plug, I'm now selling as a disc.
Yeah, is there a way we can get a hold of that or check it out, or is it online, or is it something you buy?
It's not you send me the check.
Yeah.
And I can't think of my P.O. box. I'm sorry.
Is there a way we can email you if we're interested?
Yeah, if you're interested, email me. My email email is lwolkoff, LWOLKOFF, at Prodigy, PRODIGY.net.
Nice.
And I will. It's $10 plus $1 for shipping, and it has all the interviews with all the people who were there. Interviewed with a couple of people who thought they were there, but I don't think they were. Well, see, what happened is they voted to...
That happens to me sometimes.
They voted to have another convention the following year.
Yeah.
And there's been a Philadelphia Science Fiction Convention every year since then, up to last November when we had the last one, and there's going to be another one this November.
Are they in lineage with the original one?
They are by the same group, the Philadelphia Science Fiction Society.
That's awesome.
Except during World War II, only one member of the club, because he was older, I think Ozzy was around 30 at the time, didn't get drafted. Everybody else went in, so the club, it didn't cease to exist because Ozzy, by a lucky chance, was the club secretary, so he turned the club newsletter into an APA. Do you know what an APA is?
I'm not sure.
An amateur press association. They go back to, they were first invented in the 19th century. You send, it's an email list that uses the post office instead of the internet to send the message around. You have an editor. It can be the same person for a period of time, or it can be a different person each issue.
Right.
Everybody sends in letters. Hi, this is what I'm doing, and so on. And also in the letter you can say, and I read what Joe said in the last issue, and he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This is what the situation is. So you can have some major fights going on.
Right.
And it goes on and it comes out every so often. Some come out weekly, some come out monthly, because they still exist, even with the internet. And Ozzy made the club newsletter into an APA that he sent out to all the members of the club that were in the service. So it continued through the war, and as soon as the war was over, they came back. The club reorganized, and I forget what it was. I think 1945 they ran a small PhilCon, and they certainly in 46, and they did it every year. In 46, I think, or 47, they ran the World Science Fiction Convention.
Nice.
And we've been doing it every year since. We're not as big as Arisia. We're about 1,000, 1,200 people maybe.
Yeah.
But it's a nice little bash.
It's amazing to see. I mean, this is why I kind of want to talk to you, because like, I'm kind of, a younger guy, and I run my own convention, like Game Underground Tournament Spectacular, and I've been involved in other things. And to hear like the start of that, my stuff's from video game stuff, but I'm a big sci-fi fan. I love all this stuff, and earlier when we were speaking, everything that you were saying was stuff that when you're talking about the APAs, that's something that people take for granted, that you have the internet now, and we can just go on the forums and bitch about which captain on Star Trek is the best, or which doctor we like the best, and the fact that that was actually still going on during World War II, and people talking about that, these type of things like that. It's awesome.
Mark Twain was involved in some of the early APAs back in the 1880s,
Really?
so that's how far back they go.
Wow.
There was one there was a short-lived one that only went on for a couple of years in the early 1980s for Jewish science fiction fans, and one of the arguments we had in there was what races could convert to Judaism.
Really?
Yeah, we decided Vulcans can't, but Klingons could. Because to be Jewish, you have to be logical, you have to be able to be emotional. And Vulcans can't do that, but Klingons can.
Right.
After we decided that, the next big question was, do Jewish Klingons circumcise their newborn sons with a bat left? And we decided only the really careful ones.
Only the really, that sounds like what you would want to do.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Science Fiction Society is the second oldest science fiction club in the world.
Yeah.
Science fiction clubs got started in 1934. Wonder Stories, which was a magazine, organized the Science Fiction League with chapters in different cities. We were chapter 11. Chapter 7 was the Los Angeles chapter.
Yeah.
1935, the Science Fiction League went bust. The Philly group they got together, they decided they wanted to continue. Somebody said, what are we going to call ourselves? Well, in Philadelphia, there's a bank that was founded around 1880 called the Philadelphia Savings Fund Society.
Yeah.
They have a big office building called the PSFS building, and they have 10-foot-high electric letters, PSFS. So somebody said, let's call ourselves the Philadelphia Science Fiction Society, and when people come to town, we can show them the bank building and claim that's our clubhouse.
That's awesome.
Now, the PSFS thing is such a landmark that when the bank closed down and they had to sell the office building, part of the sales contract said, you will keep the damn sign.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I see you in signal.
Yeah, we have only some limited memory left on our card, but I want to thank Lew from PhilCon, and I really appreciate you talking to me.
Sure.
And if you look,
PhilCon.org if you want more information about the convention.
yeah, go out to that, check it out, and keep supporting all the sci-fi conventions and things like that. It's great. Like he was telling me earlier, it makes people like us feel like we're home and with people that like the same things as us. So thanks for watching, and we appreciate it.